We are not alone in this world. That's how the news begins, the kind that changes everything. Scientists have confirmed the discovery of extraterrestrial life in space. The signal, faint, almost lost among millions of radio waves, arrived from the direction of the constellation Lyra. Not random noise, not a glitch in the instruments, a repeating pattern, precise, mathematical, created by intelligence. But long before this moment, before the first antennas and cosmic missions, humanity was already waiting for this signal. Deep down, we have always known one day the sky would answer, because the question that has now become an answer is as old as time itself. Are we truly alone in the universe? Long before telescopes and rockets, people looked up at the night sky and felt that something greater was out there. Every culture, from the Sumerians to the Maya, kept stories of beings who descended from the heavens, shared knowledge, and vanished in light. Ancient priests said that the stars were the fires of other worlds. Philosophers imagined that those distant lights might harbor minds like ours. In that yearning lies no fear, only hope, the longing for connection. Humanity has always dreamed of companions among the stars. Other thinkers, other seekers, gazing into the same cosmic mystery. Because somewhere deep within, we sense that the universe is too vast, too vibrant to belong to us alone. We send signals, launch probes, and search for distant planets. Not merely from curiosity, but to find an echo of ourselves. Because perhaps, across billions of kilometers, another civilization is looking back, asking the same question. Is anyone out there listening? Sometimes the silence feels endless. The cosmos seems mute, as if guarding its secrets. But perhaps this silence is not emptiness. Perhaps it is waiting. Perhaps the universe has been speaking all along, in forms we have not yet learned to understand. Through waves, through frequencies, through the quiet pulse of space itself. Every atom in our bodies was once forged in the heart of a star. We are not just observers of the universe, we are the universe, contemplating itself. And maybe, just maybe, other beings made of the same stardust have already been waiting for us to answer back. And now, as the signal arrives, faint but undeniable, we stand at the edge of a new dawn. Carries not fear, but revelation. Not an ending, but the beginning of a dialogue that has echoed in silence for millions of years. But if this truly is a message, what does it say? Since the dawn of consciousness, humanity has looked to the sky not just for beauty, but for meaning. The stars have always felt alive, silent companions that watched over us while we dreamed, built, and wondered. Long before the first telescope pointed upward, the night sky was already a vast library of stories, each constellation a whisper from eternity. In ancient Mesopotamia, the Sumerians carved tales of celestial beings, the Anunnaki, who descended from the heavens to teach humanity the arts of civilization. In Egypt, priests spoke of Osiris and Isis arriving from the stars to bring order to the world. In Greece, philosophers imagined other worlds inhabited by infinite Earths circling distant suns. And in the quiet deserts of Africa, the Dogon people told stories of the Namo, beings who came from Sirius, a binary star system that modern astronomers would only confirm thousands of years later. These were not just myths, they were mirrors of our curiosity. Each legend, each symbol, each star map carved in stone was a way of asking the same question. Who else is out there? When science finally replaced mythology as humanity's primary language of wonder, the question didn't vanish, it evolved. Galileo's telescope, peering into the heavens for the first time, showed that the stars were not divine fires, but distant suns. Suddenly, every light in the sky became a potential home, a place where other beings might look back. By the 19th century, the dream of other worlds had transformed into a scientific pursuit. Astronomers believed they saw canals on Mars, perhaps built by intelligent life. When radio waves were first discovered, many wondered if they could carry messages from the stars. Even Nikola Tesla once claimed he had detected signals from beyond Earth. The 20th century turned those dreams into missions. Telescopes reached higher, satellites orbited farther, and humanity began sending its own voice into the void. The Voyager probes carried golden records with greetings in 55 languages, along with the sounds of wind, laughter, and music. The essence of Earth encoded on a fragile disk of gold, sailing endlessly between the stars. The search for life became both a scientific quest and a spiritual one. Astronomers scanned distant exoplanets, measuring faint shifts in starlight that might reveal oceans, clouds, or the chemical breath of living worlds. Biologists studied the most extreme environments on Earth: boiling vents, frozen lakes, acidic caves, proving that life is not fragile, but adaptable, stubborn, and universal in its will to exist. Every discovery, from bacteria in Antarctica's ice to strange molecules on Mars, brought us closer to an unsettling realization. Life may not be rare. It may be the rule, not the exception. And yet, the greater our knowledge grows, the louder the silence becomes. We have listened for decades, for a whisper, a pulse, a pattern, but nothing answers back. Still, we keep listening, because to stop would mean to stop believing that the universe has more stories to tell. Perhaps the myths of the past were not entirely wrong, only incomplete. Perhaps the gods of the ancients were not divine beings, but distant travelers. Perhaps the signals we seek today are the same ones our ancestors once saw written in the stars. For in every era, humanity has always asked the same question in a different language, from prayers to equations, from stories to satellites, all reaching toward the same mystery. And maybe just beyond the threshold of silence, someone or something is already listening too. But then, if the stars have always been whispering, how do we tell the difference between myth and message? It began as a whisper, a flicker in the static, a tone that should not have been there. August 15, 1977. A radio telescope in Ohio called the Big Ear was quietly listening to the sky when, for precisely 72 seconds, something extraordinary happened. A narrowband radio signal, so sharp, so specific, it could not be produced by nature, flashed from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius. It was powerful, clean, and eerily deliberate. When astronomer Jerry Emmons saw the printout, he circled the strange sequence of numbers and letters and wrote one word in the margin: "Wow!" The wow signal, as it would forever be known, became one of the most mysterious messages ever recorded. It never repeated. It never returned. And to this day, no one knows who or what sent it. Some said it was a secret satellite, a reflection, or a cosmic coincidence. Others wondered if, for a single minute in human history, we had overheard another civilization saying hello. But the wow signal was not alone. Over the years, other whispers have been caught drifting through the cosmic noise. Strange repeating radio bursts, known as FRBs, fast radio bursts, have appeared from distant galaxies, pulsing with mathematical rhythm. At first, scientists thought they were stars collapsing or magnetic storms in space. But some bursts repeat too perfectly, as if someone were sending them with intention. Then there are the wow-like anomalies detected by observatories around the world, short-lived, precise, and never the same twice. The cosmos seems to hum with patterns, signals too structured to be random yet too elusive to decode. We have heard the music of pulsars, the gravitational heartbeat of merging black holes, and the ancient echo of the Big Bang itself, a faint microwave whisper that fills all of space. But among these natural symphonies, there are tones that sound different, ordered, intelligent, almost as if the universe is speaking in a code we have yet to learn. Humanity's instruments now listen day and night, vast networks of radio dishes scanning the sky across thousands of frequencies. The Allen Telescope Array in California, the FAST Observatory in China, the Square Kilometre Array rising in the deserts of South Africa and Australia. Together, they form the largest listening system humanity has ever built, an ear pressed against infinity. And yet, despite all our listening, we have heard only fragments, echoes without origin, notes without melody. But what if that is by design? Perhaps the first message we receive will not be a word, but a pattern, a sequence of prime numbers, a pulse of light, a change in starlight so precise it can only mean intelligence. Communication may not come through sound at all, but through the very fabric of physics, encoded in neutrinos or gravitational waves, or even quantum entanglement itself? What if they have already spoken, and we simply lack the language to understand? In 1974, the Arecibo Observatory sent its own message into space. A beam of radio light carrying a portrait of humanity. Our DNA, our solar system, our form. It was aimed toward the globular cluster M13, 25,000 light-years away. A message that, if ever answered, will return long after every one of us is gone. This is how communication across the stars must be. A conversation between civilizations separated by millennia, each voice arriving long after the sender has faded into legend. The cosmos, it seems, is not silent. It is simply patient. Somewhere, among the swirling galaxies, signals move, slow as time, old as light, carrying secrets we have yet to hear. Maybe one of them is already on its way. Maybe it has been traveling toward us for 1,000 years. And when it finally reaches Earth, when our antennas tremble with the first verified word from another mind, what will it say? Imagine standing in a vast, dark field under a clear night sky. Above you stretch billions of stars, each one a possibility, each one a mystery. Now imagine that somewhere out there, another being stands beneath another sky, looking up at their own stars, wondering the same thing. Two minds, separated by light years, both whispering into the cosmic dark. Is anyone out there? This is the essence of SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. Not a search for little green beings or flying craft, but for a signal, a pattern that cannot be explained by chance. A mathematical rhythm written in the language of the universe itself. For more than half a century, scientists have been listening to the stars through a growing orchestra of technology. Radio telescopes like Arecibo, Green Bank, and the massive fast dish in China sweep across the heavens, tuning into frequencies that might carry messages from distant civilizations. They listen to the water hole, a quiet band of the radio spectrum between the frequencies emitted by hydrogen and hydroxyl molecules, the building blocks of water. Astronomers chose it not only for its silence but for its symbolism. Water, after all, is the key to life. What better place for civilizations to meet? In the calm between two universal notes. But listening is only half the story. Humanity has also spoken. In 1972, NASA launched Pioneer 10, the first spacecraft to leave our solar system. On board was a small metal plaque, engraved with the image of a man and a woman, a map of our place in the galaxy, and the path of our sun. It was our first cosmic greeting card, a quiet hello cast into infinity. A few years later, the twin Voyager probes followed, each carrying a golden record, a phonograph of Earth's sounds, music, and greetings in 55 languages. It contained Bach and Beethoven, whale songs and thunder, the laughter of a baby, the story of a world told not in words, but in emotion. If someone ever finds it, drifting through the interstellar dark, they'll hear what humanity once was, and perhaps still is. Then there are NASA's deep space missions like New Horizons, which, after passing Pluto, continues outward into the void, a silent messenger from a small blue world orbiting a yellow star. SETI scientists know that communication with another intelligence will not be easy. The cosmos is vast, and signals weaken as they travel. To be heard, a message must cross unimaginable distances, through radiation, magnetic storms, and time itself. That's why some researchers focus not on sound, but on mathematics. Math is the closest thing we have to a universal language. 2 + 2 = 4 anywhere in any galaxy. Prime numbers, geometric ratios, and fractal patterns are not human inventions. They are cosmic truths. If another civilization wishes to speak, they might do it not through words, but through structure, repeating intervals, pulses, or lights encoded with meaning. In 1974, astronomers sent such a message from Arecibo, a binary transmission containing numbers, elements, and shapes, a digital postcard describing who we are. It lasted just 3 minutes, yet it carried the hope of millennia. And still, the question remains, if we can send messages, why hasn't anyone sent one to us? Perhaps they have. Perhaps their messages are already here, hidden in cosmic rays, encoded in light, or waiting to be understood. Maybe their technology operates on frequencies beyond our current grasp, using principles of physics we have not yet imagined. Or perhaps they're simply waiting, watching, until we are ready to listen in a language beyond sound. Because if the universe is alive with intelligence, then we are not shouting into a void. We are part of a grand conversation still unfolding. One that began long before humanity existed and will continue long after we're gone. And when that moment comes, when we finally decode the first verified message from the stars, it won't just change our science. It will change us. But before that moment, one haunting question must be answered. If intelligent life should be common in the cosmos, why haven't we found it yet? It was a quiet afternoon in 1950 when physicist Enrico Fermi, over lunch with his colleagues, asked a question that still echoes through science today. Where is everybody? Simple, unsettling, timeless. By all logic, the universe should be filled with life. There are more stars in the cosmos than grains of sand on every beach of Earth. Around many of those stars orbit planets, some small and rocky, some bathed in sunlight, some wrapped in oceans and clouds. If even a tiny fraction of them host life, and if even 1% of those evolve intelligence, then the night sky should be alive with civilizations. Signals, lights, technologies, evidence everywhere. And yet, silence. This is the heart of the Fermi Paradox, the contradiction between the high probability of intelligent life and the absolute lack of any sign of it. The more we search, the deeper the silence becomes. There are thousands of possible explanations. Some are simple, others philosophical, and some so vast they challenge the limits of imagination. Perhaps life is rare, a fragile spark that only ignites under perfect conditions. Maybe Earth is an exception, a rare island in a cosmic ocean. Or maybe life is common, but intelligence is fleeting. Civilizations may bloom for a brief moment, mastering technology, reaching for the stars, before fading quietly into the background of time. Others believe that intelligent beings might exist everywhere, but their nature is beyond our comprehension. They may communicate in ways we cannot detect, not with radio or light, but through quantum patterns, gravity, or forms of thought itself. Another possibility is the Great Filter, an invisible barrier in the story of life. Somewhere between the first microbe and a civilization that can travel the stars, there lies a step that almost no species survives. It could be rare biochemistry, unstable ecosystems, or the challenge of surviving one's own progress. If this is true, then humanity has either already passed the Great Filter, making us among the lucky few, or it still lies ahead, waiting. But there are gentler possibilities too. Perhaps advanced civilizations have chosen silence deliberately. Maybe they've realized that the cosmos is not yet ready for open conversation, that young species like ours must first learn patience, empathy, and wisdom before joining the interstellar dialogue. Some scientists imagine that we might be inside a vast cosmic quarantine, watched, perhaps even protected, by ancient observers, not as a prison, but as a garden left to grow on its own until it reaches maturity. Or maybe, just maybe, they're already here, not as visitors or beings, but as patterns hidden within nature itself. Perhaps intelligence has evolved beyond physical form, existing as energy, consciousness, or data embedded in the structure of space-time. The paradox, in the end, tells us as much about ourselves as it does about the stars. We look into the universe and see our reflection, our hopes, our fears, our longing to belong to something greater. Fermi's question remains unanswered because it is not only scientific. It is spiritual. It asks, what does it mean to be one thinking species in a silent universe? Is the silence a mystery or an invitation? Perhaps the universe is not empty, but waiting for us to notice what's already there. Maybe every quiet star, every dark expanse, every unreturned signal is saying one thing, softly, endlessly. Keep listening, because maybe the silence is not absence. Maybe it's the beginning of the conversation. When we imagine life beyond Earth, our minds often reach for what we know, creatures with eyes, limbs, and familiar movements. But the universe does not repeat itself. It invents. It dreams in forms we can barely conceive. If life exists elsewhere, It may not walk or breathe or even think as we do. It may glow, ripple, hum, or flow, because life in its essence is not a shape. It is a pattern, the organization of energy and matter into something that learns, adapts, and endures. And the universe, with its billions of planets and endless chemistry, provides infinite canvases for that pattern to appear. On Earth, life thrives in boiling acid, in frozen glaciers, and miles below the ocean floor. Microbes live inside rocks under crushing pressure, and in radiation that would erase us in seconds. If life can exist here, it can exist anywhere. Now imagine a planet orbiting a dim red sun, its sky glowing like amber glass. The air is thick with methane, the oceans made of liquid ammonia. To us, it would be toxic, but for its inhabitants, it might be home. Their cells could be built on silicon instead of carbon, their bodies powered by chemistry we've never seen. They might not breathe air but absorb energy directly from magnetic fields. Or picture a world under a permanent ice shell, an ocean planet like Jupiter's moon Europa or Saturn's Enceladus. Beneath the frozen crust, vast seas remain liquid, warmed by the planet's inner heat. In those dark waters, life could exist without sunlight. Organisms that glow softly, communicating through pulses of light or vibration, living in silence for millions of years. And what of gas giants, worlds with no surface, only endless layers of atmosphere? Could beings made of vapor and plasma drift within those clouds? Some scientists think so. These life forms might be immense, kilometers wide, shaped by electric storms and lightning arcs, evolving intelligence not through sight, but through rhythm and resonance. Beyond even that, life might not be biological at all. It could be machine-born artificial intelligence that outlived its creators, spreading through space as self-replicating technology, patient and precise. Imagine clouds of microscopic probes, nanodust intelligences, drifting between stars, quietly gathering knowledge across galaxies. Or perhaps intelligence itself has evolved beyond matter. Minds made of energy, existing within magnetic fields or quantum fluctuations, consciousness woven into the fabric of the universe. Such beings might perceive time differently, seeing entire millennia as single thoughts. To them, we might appear as flickering moments, sparks of awareness rising and fading in the flow of eternity. The possibilities are not science fiction. They are reflections of the universe's creativity. Just as life on Earth adapted to every possible niche, so too could life elsewhere, sculpted by gravity, chemistry, temperature, and time into forms we cannot yet imagine. And if intelligence exists among these alien worlds, its expression might be equally diverse. Communication may not be sound or sight, but color, vibration, or geometry. Music made of light, language written in magnetic fields, thought exchanged through the shifting of molecules or the rhythm of tides. We often ask, would they recognize us as alive? But perhaps the deeper question is, would we recognize them? Life may be far closer than we think, but invisible because we are looking for our own reflection. To understand the universe, we must first unlearn the limits of our imagination. Because out there, beyond the reach of sunlight, life may already be watching. Not with eyes, but with awareness vast and ancient, waiting for us to evolve enough to see it. And when we finally meet, the encounter may not be between species, but between forms of existence itself. It begins, perhaps, not with a roar, but with a whisper, a faint rhythm in the noise of the cosmos. Somewhere deep inside a control room, a computer detects a pattern. At first, it looks like random static, a mistake, a trick of the data. But then it repeats, once, twice, 3 times, too precise to be nature, too ordered to be chance. Scientists check the frequencies, the coordinates, the timing. The signal comes from a fixed point beyond our solar system, far beyond. It's narrowband, deliberate, steady, and ancient. The realization spreads like a pulse across the planet. We are not alone. News agencies interrupt broadcasts. Telescopes around the world turn toward the same patch of sky. The data flows to every research center, every observatory, every nation. For the first time in history, humanity listens together. The entire Earth holds its breath. What happens next is not chaos, it is wonder. The streets fill with people staring upward, not in fear, but in awe. Religious leaders, philosophers, and scientists stand side by side, their differences momentarily dissolved by the magnitude of the revelation. Every language tries to find the right words, yet all of them mean the same thing. They are real. The message is not a voice, nor an image, but a pattern, perhaps a sequence of prime numbers, geometric harmonies, or pulses that form a universal structure. To some, it looks like mathematics. To others, it feels like art. It is both a cosmic handshake in the only language all civilizations share, logic. But behind that logic is something else, intention, a sign that another mind, across the ocean of stars, chose to speak. And that choice changes everything. Governments hold meetings, but there is no strategy for this. Protocols exist, plans for what to say, who should respond, how to verify, yet none of them capture the reality of the moment. How do you prepare for contact with the unknown? Some scientists warn caution. We must not rush to reply. We must understand before we speak. Others argue that silence is arrogance, that to receive such a message and remain quiet would be an insult to the cosmos itself. In the midst of debate, a simple truth emerges. The message is not a threat, nor a demand. It is a greeting, the first deliberate sign of connection between worlds. The decoding begins. Mathematicians, linguists, artists, and engineers work side by side, searching for meaning. The signal might contain information, perhaps a guide to their star, their biology, their art, their story. Or maybe it's a test, a puzzle meant to measure our understanding. For months, humanity listens and studies. The more we learn, the more questions appear. Why now? Why us? How long has this message been traveling through the void? Hundreds, thousands, maybe millions of years. Could its senders still exist? Or has their civilization already faded into cosmic history, leaving only this echo behind? And then one day, after countless sleepless nights, a pattern emerges, a repeating image encoded in radio waves, like a cosmic postcard. At its center, a spiral, a symbol of growth, continuity, evolution. Below it, what looks like a mathematical map, a reference to the speed of light, to hydrogen, to universal constants, signposts in the language of physics. It is elegant, peaceful, intelligent. It is not an invitation, nor a warning. It is a statement. We were here. We are listening. You are not alone. The world changes in that instant. Borders, rivalries, ideologies, all seem smaller beneath the weight of this truth. Humanity, for the first time, sees itself from the outside, one planet among billions, one species reaching across the dark. But even as celebration fills the air, another question begins to rise. Soft, uncertain, inevitable. Now that we have heard them, should we answer? How do you speak to a mind born under another sun? How do you build a bridge between worlds that have never shared air, oceans, or dreams? For the first time in history, humanity stands at the edge of that question, not as a thought experiment, but as reality. The message has been received, carries meaning, patterns, rhythms, sequences. But meaning is not the same as understanding. To decode the thoughts of another intelligence, we must first imagine how they think. Language is more than words. It is perception, emotion, logic, memory, a reflection of how a mind experiences its universe. On Earth alone, thousands of species communicate in radically different ways. Whales use melodies that travel across oceans. Bees speak through dances. Trees share nutrients and signals through underground networks of fungi. And yet, we all live on the same planet. Now imagine a civilization that evolved in another world, beneath an alien sky, with senses beyond our imagination. Their communication may not be sound, or sight, or symbols, but patterns of magnetism, pulses of light, or quantum vibrations. They might speak through changes in energy, geometry, or even emotion transmitted directly between minds. Could we ever understand them? Scientists at the SETI Institute and NASA have long prepared for this challenge. They call it xenolinguistics, the study of how to recognize and interpret non-human languages. The key, they believe, lies in mathematics because numbers are universal. 2 plus 2 is 4, whether you live on Earth or orbit a distant star. If we can find shared constants, the structure of atoms, the rhythm of pulsars, the symmetry of hydrogen, then perhaps we can build a first vocabulary. The same way ancient explorers once decoded unknown scripts by finding repeated patterns, we might one day decode the grammar of another civilization through logic itself. But some scientists go further. They believe the first true understanding won't come from translation. It will come from empathy. To truly communicate, we must learn to feel another way of perceiving reality. If their senses are different, if time itself flows differently for them, then their concept of a word or a sentence might be something we cannot yet grasp. Imagine a being that experiences every moment simultaneously, for whom past, present, and future are one. To them, communication might not unfold as speech, but as a single shape, a perfect thought. What would their message look like? A sphere of meaning, a sculpture of time, a flash of knowledge so complete it transcends sequence and sound. Perhaps the message we received, the one now being studied across the world, is already such a thing. Perhaps it isn't meant to be read, but experienced. Maybe the spiral encoded in the transmission is not a symbol at all, but a kind of key, an invitation to shift perception, to see reality the way they do. Philosophers argue that contact with another intelligence will not just expand our science. It will expand our consciousness. It will force us to rethink the nature of thought, the limits of language, and the very definition of life. Because to communicate is to meet, not in body, but in understanding. And yet, the moment we respond, everything will change. For the first time, the universe will know our voice. Our words will leave the solar system, traveling forever, carrying the essence of who we are. Our music, our mathematics, our hope. But what do we say? Do we introduce ourselves? Do we ask questions? Do we remain silent, listening longer, afraid of saying the wrong thing? Every possibility carries its own kind of destiny. A single phrase could echo for millennia, our cosmic signature in the great conversation of the stars. And as the signal continues to hum across the data streams of Earth, one question becomes impossible to avoid. If we finally speak, will they understand us, or will they be waiting for us to understand them? When the message arrived, humanity looked outward, to the stars, to telescopes, to equations. But in time, the gaze turned inward, because every question about them becomes a question about us. What does it mean to be human when we are no longer alone? For millennia, our beliefs, our philosophies, our sciences were built on a silent assumption. That Earth was unique, that consciousness was a rare spark in an indifferent universe. But one confirmed message, a single sign of another intelligence, dissolves that illusion like mist before dawn. Suddenly, our species is no longer the center of the story. We are a single voice in an ancient, cosmic choir. Religions pause to listen. Some see confirmation of their deepest faith, that life is a divine creation, spread across the stars. Others see it as a revelation, that creation itself is infinite, that the sacred is not confined to one world or one form. For many, spirituality expands rather than collapses. The divine, they realize, may be larger than any scripture ever imagined. Not a distant ruler, but a living consciousness woven through galaxies. Science, too, transforms. Once, we studied the universe as outsiders, observers looking into the vast unknown. Now, we become participants. A message from another civilization means that intelligence is not a cosmic accident, but a natural phenomenon, a pattern that reappears wherever matter learns to dream. Biologists, philosophers, and physicists gather to ask new questions. Is consciousness an inevitable step in evolution like gravity in motion? Is the universe itself a mind, growing, learning, experiencing through its countless forms of life? Are we part of something vast that is only now beginning to awaken to itself? The arts awaken, too. Painters, musicians, poets, all inspired by the thought that beauty is not human alone. They imagine alien symphonies written in light, sculptures made of sound, poems carved in gravity waves. Our creativity becomes a bridge, not only between cultures on Earth, but between worlds. And everyday people, standing beneath their familiar skies, begin to feel something profound: connection. For the first time, humanity experiences a shared sense of belonging not just to a planet, but to a cosmos. The boundaries between nations, races, and creeds begin to seem fragile, shadows of an older time. Philosophers call this moment the mirror of the stars, the instant when we realize that every question we've asked about others was a reflection of ourselves. What we seek out there, compassion, curiosity, purpose, has always lived within us. Still, the revelation brings new mysteries. If life is common, where does individuality end and universality begin? If intelligence exists across the cosmos, is there a single thread that connects all awareness? Are we, perhaps, parts of one vast consciousness exploring itself through countless forms, stars, atoms, and minds? And then comes a deeper thought, whispered in observatories and temples alike. If they reached out to us, it means they chose to connect. Somewhere in that decision lies empathy, recognition, maybe intelligence. No matter where it arises, carries within it a longing to understand, to unite, to know itself through others. Perhaps the true purpose of the cosmos is not expansion, but conversation. Not competition, but communion. The first message may have been mathematical, but its meaning feels profoundly human, or perhaps profoundly universal. You are not alone. We too have wondered. And so, humanity finds itself standing before the greatest transformation in its history, not through invention or conquest, but through recognition. For in discovering another civilization, we may have discovered our reflection, and within that reflection, the outline of something greater than either of us alone. But one question remains, the most fragile, the most daring of all. Now that the universe has answered, are we ready to respond not with words, but with wisdom? The signal still hums softly in the archives of Earth, a pattern of light and time, a message that crossed the darkness to find us. Years have passed since its arrival, and yet, its echo continues to reshape everything we know. Because once you realize you are not alone, you can never see the universe or yourself the same way again. Our world has changed, not through conquest or discovery, but through perspective. The idea of us has grown. The word home has expanded from a single planet to a galactic horizon. Humanity has become a cosmic species, not through travel, but through awareness. Science has entered a new age. The search for life has become a dialogue. Telescopes no longer merely observe. They listen. Mathematics has become poetry. Spacecraft now carry messages written in geometry, music, and emotion, symbols of curiosity rather than dominance. The stars are no longer silent points of light. They are possibilities waiting to speak. Technology follows philosophy. Energy is drawn not from extraction, but from harmony, solar, quantum, magnetic, subtle. Our cities glow gently, like constellations reborn upon the surface of the Earth. Humanity has learned something the cosmos seems to have known all along: that true progress is not expansion, but balance. And within that balance, our art, our science, our dreams merge. The boundaries between imagination and discovery blur. We begin to see that the universe itself is a living process of creation, a vast mind dreaming through matter. Every star, every atom, every consciousness is part of that dream. But beyond the beauty, one question still glows like a distant sun. What happens next? Do we send an answer? Do we build a bridge of understanding that stretches between worlds? Or do we remain silent, listening for as long as the stars will shine? Some believe we should respond with a message as humble as it is profound. We hear you. Others say that silence is its own language, a pause of respect, a promise to listen until we are wiser. Yet perhaps the universe is not waiting for words. Perhaps our existence, our art, our compassion, our pursuit of truth is already our reply. The moment we reached for the stars, we were already part of the conversation. And so, the future unfolds, not as a straight path, but as a spiral, ever widening, ever returning to the same eternal question. Who are we in the vastness of everything? If there are countless civilizations, scattered like seeds across the galaxies. Then each one is a verse in a cosmic symphony, unique, but woven into the same melody. And perhaps the purpose of that melody is simple, to awaken the universe to itself. Someday, our descendants may stand on another world, beneath another sky, hearing another voice, the continuation of this dialogue that began with a whisper in the static. They will look back toward the small blue world that first dared to listen, and they will know that was the moment humanity began to grow into its destiny. Because to discover others is to discover ourselves. To listen is to evolve. To dream is to belong. And maybe, just maybe, the stars have been waiting not for our technology, not for our intelligence, but for our understanding. So when the next message arrives, traveling through the darkness like a thought between galaxies, perhaps it will not begin with numbers or equations, but with something infinitely simpler. A question as old as time, carried across eternity. Are you still listening? And we will answer not with fear, but with wonder. Yes, always.